This is my life now. So about 6 months ago, I let my gas get shut off because, well, the bill is hyperinflating and I don't need it. It's not sustainable. I have my wood burning stove. I shower underneath my spigots. I use a rag and I take washcloth baths. You know, thinking about it all really critically, it's actually cleaner and healthier for me to wipe down daily underneath this instead of the tap water from, well, the well. And then I don't have that bill, and that toxic water doesn't soak into my skin. It's like a win-win. And I'm getting ahead of the curve here doing this. I do my laundry by hand where I got this rope. And do you really realize how many changes of clothing you don't actually need when you have to do it by hand? Psychological, physiological hurdle for people is going to be the adjustment to their diet, the radical adjustment to simplifying, living more whole foods based and, well, clean water instead of soda pops and that kind of thing. It's going to be difficult for people because they're so conditioned and used to, their guts are used to toxic, poisonous garbage food. So that's going to be a whole thing. That was like a whole thing for me transitioning into eating organically. In my fridge is nothing but coffee. My plate here is flour and maple syrup, cinnamon powder, eggs, whipped up into this pancake mix. So this is cool. This is a good little treat for me. But typically on most every night, I'm just eating eggs. I'm eating the meats that I grow, greens, and the produce that I grow. The prepped up bean soups, rices, bean soup mix, which is the grains, the rices, the beans. That gets cooked down and cooked up in a dish that I make with the meats. And I got fish that my neighbor Tom catches and he trades me for eggs. So I'm already bartering and trading. I'm already in it. I'm already immersed in it. So that's yeah, that's gonna be a big thing for people. They're not gonna understand. They're gonna have to make that change real drastically. So that's gonna be something fun to look forward to. But I am actually looking forward to that because I'm gonna watch everybody I know and love, all the people closest to me, I'm gonna watch them get healthier and adjust to their new way of life. Grass clippings. I'm saving these up. They're coming from my push mower. This is a manual push mower. My grass is pretty long now, so I'm rolling around, clipping it all, and tossing some to the animals, but most of it's gonna get stored up. Like this, I'm gonna go ahead and dry it out on a tarp, and then it's gonna get prepped away in bales for the winter season. A bunch of tomatoes that I started that I haven't put in the ground yet. They're all here. These are cucumbers and corn. And I'm prepping an area, a whole new spot. I just picked up this welded wire. And around the pond over here, I'm gonna go ahead and set it up to grow all those tomatoes. I have a bunch of tomatoes back here right now. I just started a ton this year. Look at these strawberries. They haven't fruited yet, but they're about to. They're starting to produce their fruits. They just haven't ripened yet, I should say. So you see there's a fruit there. It's just about to be ripe. Maybe another few days to a week. And then the blackberry bushes are all coming in pretty good. Chickens are doing well. Rabbits are all doing well. I set up these little sections here as little grow out sections for some of these rabbits to hang out in. Another one here beside this duck run. So they got this area, there's a couple different sections. I'm gonna put rabbits in here soon. Ducks hanging out, bucket tunnel, rabbits hanging out all back here, chickens and whatnot. And then these are onions, onion sets, and kale, bunch of kale. Put in radishes here, and then there's a few corns back there. All that is my brassicas. And then garlics and potatoes, and peas and bush beans. And I'm still ripping this up and feeding all this to the animals as I rip it up. And this is going to get manure. It's going to get duck and rabbit manure from inside the colony. And I'm also going to turn in wood ash. I burnt a big fire and I got these 2 buckets full of wood ash. I'm going to go ahead and spread that out. And then it will feed the tomatoes. There's the welded wire. And here is a bunch of strawberries as well, and compost going. And those humps over there got the squash that are starting to pop up now. And over here is brassicas and peppers, bell peppers. That's what these are. And up there on the deck, I've got more peppers, sweet peppers and hot peppers. Those are potatoes. The pit that's gonna get done. And then this is raspberry, which is flowering pretty nice. Potatoes all in these big buckets down here. Apple trees still. I went ahead and put 4 of them up front. I got an orchard going in the front yard. I picked up this sickle, this little handheld that allows me to grab grass that's long and just make a clean cut so I can feed that without having to rip up the dirt. It's gonna make that easier. This tarp I laid out right here, and I'm gonna throw greens and things on there and let them dry out. I got an idea. I've got this wood that I picked up from my neighbor. He gave it to me, a bunch of it. I'm gonna put a food cart up front in my driveway, and I'm gonna sell food to the neighborhood this year. And it's gonna be pretty damn sweet. So this is a bunch of wood. I'm gonna build it, and then I got these 2. I'm gonna build the walls. I gotta get some wheels, and I'm gonna hook that up, figure that out. Back here in this section, I'm starting more compost piles. So there's 1, 2, then that's gonna be another 3 and 4. So there'll be 4 of them in here. And then I got the compost in the back too. And then up here is where I put the trees. So you see 1, 2, 3, and then over there is 4. I got to put stones around it still. I'm setting up stones around this cherry tree where I have strawberries underneath it. And I've mulched a little bit around all these already. And then strawberries in the corner here. And then these are wild raspberries. I put a little bit of mulch around, which is animal manure from the ducks and the rabbits. So that's good. It's like a cold manure that can go directly onto the plants. The chicken manure is what you don't want to put directly because it's hot with nitrogen and it's got to compost first. A lot of preppers prep stuff I'll see on their channel. It's you'll see that they have items they bought from the store, just tons of store-bought goods, canned foods, and things that are not healthy, processed foods. And you want to be healthy during that. It's not sustainable. So you could have 3 years, 4 years, you could even have enough for 10 years stored up in Mylar and all that, but that's not sustainable. What's sustainable is you have to grow all of your own food. You can use that stuff to supplement your diet until you've weaned yourself off onto growing all your own food, and then also seed saving everything so that you have new seed. And things like the potatoes and winter squash, you get to get those seeds, and the potato seed has got to be stored through the winter into the next season. And garlics go over winter like that, or can be left in the ground. I'm sure there's many other crops too that I just don't know or not thinking of at the moment that do that same thing. That's the sustainability. That's that regenerative, holistic, the purest way. These things out here, these food items, you can spend all your money all day long, every bit that you get, and just continue to stock up on these things, on these canned foods and all the other things with ingredients that are not healthy foods. They will poison you and make you weaker during a time when you need to be on your highest vibration, at your strongest, to lead and fight like a superhero, like a soldier. And all that's not going to do it. See, I've simplified my diet so much so that I get by eating eggs and these greens that I grow, and soon to be all of the fruits and all the fresh beans and cucumbers and many other things from the garden, the radishes and the beets I just eat raw, peppers and the tomatoes. And in the meantime, I'm in here inside eating all of what's growing in here, which is peppers and even a few cucumbers here and there that are growing on the trellises. The greens. I've got 4 lemon trees in there. Those are going to take a minute. Maybe I'll have them by winter. The kales are wonderful. There's even a zucchini back there I've been ripping leaves off of and just giving it to my rabbits. I don't see a fruit coming on that one yet. I had another one before that one that I pulled because it fruited like 3 fruits and they weren't the biggest fruits, and then I just pulled it and fed it to my rabbits. I come in here right now while I don't even have much out there yet. It's all literally about to be here like 3 days. And then I'm gonna have a ton of fruits to pick to start and get the vitamin C from my strawberries. I haven't bought fruit from the store in months. I just heard a recall on the strawberries, something about that today. I laughed and thought to myself, you know, I had strawberries in here before. I'm about to have these ones out here now. And I'm about to have these ones. I got so many, and it's going to be absolutely insane. At my flea market, you can set up food, and I'm going to bring my rabbits. I haven't done it yet, but I'm planning on it this weekend. I'm going to bring like 10 rabbits down there and sell them. And maybe a couple ducks, because I might have a couple too many ducks. So I might just bring a couple ducks and see if I can get $60 for a pair of ducks. Or maybe just take 2 drakes and see if somebody wants to just buy a drake or buy 2 drakes. Because I got 4 drakes and 4 hens of the ducks, the muscovies, and I think I only need 2 drakes, 4 hens. And that'll be a better way to be. I don't want to process them. I don't need to right now, and they eat up feed that they wouldn't eat if I only had 2. I'd only 4 if I'm not going to be eating them soon. Our ancestors, the holistic way that people lived on planet Earth throughout most of human history, this is like an oddity. This is a phenomenon, something that we have been thrusted into with this tech. It got us complacent, distracted as a whole. I mean, me, I've pretty much wiggled my way out by now, but most people, right? So when we get back to the seeds and back to nature and the animals and the regenerative ways to feed them without ordering my feed, I don't want to ever do that again. No ordering feed. I feed them off the land in whichever way that I have the means to. If I had a bunch of land, I could have acres of grains growing if I wanted. But here I'm on this little lot. I'm like on an island. I gotta like figure out how to do all these things here in this little spot, which is a challenge. These are trials. You're going through trials too. Wherever you're at, that's how you gotta look at this whole thing. You can't look at it like, oh, poor me, problems. No. You solutions, you wiggle your way to any and everything that you desire in life. Simple as that. Wiggle. Wiggle your way. All these egg cartons that I've had a bunch of, my neighbors are saving them for me as they're buying them because they're going to get repurposed. I'm going to use them. I've been collecting them too for my bug business, and I'm going to repurpose them for eggs when I do some selling of my eggs, and I use them to give my neighbors eggs. I'm getting ready to do trips to the flea market. I'm going to be going probably once a month, as well as building the food cart for the road. I'm kind of like debating whether I want to do that though, because that draws attention, and it may draw unwanted attention from ordinance or people. So I'm thinking if I can just go to the flea market twice a month and sell a lot and bring eggs and animals, that would be a smarter move. But I'm gonna build the food cart still. I want the world to be a good place, and I want to be able to put a food cart out in the road and sell food and be happy and make everybody healthy and just be cool. And then I'll make all my money here from home and love it. And that's what I want. I don't want to go nowhere. I don't want to leave and go to the flea market. I'd rather go out in my front yard at the roadside. People will stop like they do. I've seen many farmers markets I've passed by where people will just have a stand selling just corn, and you'll see a line of like 50 people waiting in line just to get the corn. That's gonna be my driveway. But it's not just gonna be corn, it's gonna be like boom, everything and anything. But am I gonna be allowed to? You know? And then people might start getting desperate. You know, a carton of eggs, a 12 pack's gonna run you about $10 a dozen. Truly, it's about 10. It's gonna be in like a week, and then it's gonna be priceless. You're gonna have to trade me an ounce of silver for a dozen, and then I'm just not gonna trade them to you because they're gonna be too valuable. I'm gonna need them for myself and my animals and to keep the community alive. But yummy. I get like 32 a day and duck eggs. The stone hearth is gonna get a little bit of sand in the cracks, and it's gonna fill in these cracks here, and then I'm gonna tap it down some here and there, and it will self-level is the idea. I'm gonna lay a piece of Gorilla Tape where the pond liner meets the wood for the seam, so that any sand that falls through the cracks won't pour out. This is the pea pebbles, and that's what's under here, and then under the pea pebbles is a thin layer of sand, so that's how that works, sitting on top of the pond liner. This will burn good. Ripped up the last of the grass in this section here, and that's going to be really nice to get these next two beds in and finish this, laying out this manure and turning it in with the wood ash. Over here, gave the chickens and the rabbits the chunks of grass. They're picking at it, ripping it apart. They absolutely love it. And these rabbits, look at these guys. There's 10 of them. And they're New Zealand's pure. Different color patterns, broken patterns, and solid. The grays and the reds, like that guy there, that would be like a red, and then the broken with different colors. I moved them from over here into this area, which is just this section here, and it stops there where the tunnel goes for the ducks, and they just stayed here. I use this as a cap for them to hide out under at night, with the water dish, food dish, but I mainly just feed them. Now I'm transitioning everything off of pellets, at least the rabbits. And the chickens, I'm going to work on transitioning them off of the grainy feed that you would buy to all regenerative inputs. Rabbits eating theirs. I threw some to everybody in every section. That one there's brown. These are the silver fox rabbits. And they have silver like salt in pepper. But the brown pattern, and there's white. There's white too. I had a white one, but she didn't make it. She got unhealthy. I had to put her down. Chickens eating their piece. Maggot buckets there. They are feeding them with the maggots. I come out at night and it's steady feed. They are out here at night now. My run doors don't lock up at night. I don't do any of that. I'm passive as possible. Let them range. And what they're doing is they're coming out at night and they're getting all the maggots when they're out there. And the same with over here. Under these maggot buckets, this maggot bucket system hanging here on this 4x4. And I gotta take it down, and what happens to the scraps inside is they completely break down into like a little puddle of goo, but it's not even like a puddle. It just breaks down completely. And then fill it up again. So I'm gonna check them. Furthest one back will likely be the oldest here, and then I'll figure out how to keep them in rotation. This is another one of the areas that I have for the grow outs here. I'm finishing building it and securing it, and I'll move some silver fox grow outs over here. That's the New Zealand grow outs. This is the duck house with their pool for now until the pond is done. Under here they got a shade area now. Ducks, muscovies. Everybody's picking at the grass, loving it. And then there's worms and other bugs inside the dirt clump. The muscovies love the bugs just as much as the chickens do. When that pond is ready, that's going to attract all kinds of things. Biodiversity and life. One of my original mama rabbits hangs out inside with us. Don't forget clean water. She's got this cage where she's got babies, 6 of them. Clean water for the animals, for you. You want clean water, so your animals should get clean water. Your tap water is not going to be clean. And what else? Even if you're on your own private well, how much do you really trust your well water? Unless your house has like a really nice system to really clean this stuff, you should be cleaning it for you and your animals. And that's what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a long time now, since I've had my animals. They get that pure water from the Berkey systems. In working to ration my animals off of feed, I have these 2 buckets here, 5-gallon buckets with chicken feed in it. The ducks and the chickens eat this, and so do the rabbits actually. So what I'm doing is I'm taking these 2, they're sealed in Mylar, so they were prepped a little while ago, and I'm gonna bust them open and divide them among 7 buckets and make that last 1 week. So it will be just enough for the day for everybody, and then they're gonna have to eat all the other things, the maggots, the grass, and the bugs from the dirt and that stuff. And then in the winter time is going to be the real challenge. I'm working to be able to make pelleted feed of my own with the hand crank that I have. I still have to get into that. And then the bugs that I'm breeding for the chickens and for the ducks, roaches, I want to have those numbers up a bunch through this summer into fall, and then have a ton of them already ready for the winter and keep it that way. So find a sustainable sweet spot to have those colonies as well for all of my animals. I want to be able to keep around 30 hens, laying hens. It's a lot, but it's really not a lot. You're going to need every bit of that, all those eggs for your self-sustainability and for your family and close neighbors. Greenhouse as well will supplement through the winter is what I'm thinking, So I can get by with just the right amount, not even that much, through the winter while I eat up things that I grew, like the root crops and animals, through the winter. For me, I can get all of my nutrition growing just select greens for myself. And whatever else, if I don't have the indoor grow lights, or if I do, then I have my grow rooms as well. So that's even more to get through the winter and grow the animals' feed and my own. The nutrient density is what I'm after. The good nutrition, calories coming from potatoes and the meat, and the proteins and the fats that come from the meats. This year I'm going to start canning real soon. Actually, it will be starting with my strawberries, and then tomatoes, and maybe even beans and anything else. But the main focus is going to be the strawberries and the tomatoes, where I'm going to make jelly, a homemade kind. I haven't got the recipe yet, but I want to have the strawberries as prepped up, stored up food, at least this winter, and then next year I'll do probably a bunch more different things. But it's going to be the strawberries and the tomatoes will be a ketchup for my potatoes that I'm going to be storing up through the winter. So I'll have that as a ketchup for them, and I've been really wanting that, my own, because ketchup is amazing with the baked potatoes, as the baked with slices down them. That's how I bake all of my potatoes and root crops, where I put cuts down them, bake them with oil and salt, and then they become like chips, crispy fries. And the strawberries jelly, see, the vitamin C is something critical that I really need, and to get through the winter with vitamin C. And that will come from lemons too, if I can get the lemon trees really booming. But I want to for sure have tons of strawberries that I have out there, and it's going to be so insane. And then having all the extras, I want to not have extra, because I'm going to put up in that way with making my own jelly. So that adds for that nutrient over the winter. I have prepped up vitamin C ascorbic acid powder in jugs, and that's a prep item that I actually take too as a supplement. Right now I'm not getting much vitamin C from fruits because I don't have my fruits ripe in the yard yet, and I haven't wanted to go back to the store for buying any produce. None of that. It isn't safe anymore with all the things that could be in the food and on the food, and the lack of nutrition that's not in the food. So grow it yourself, and then can supplement the essential vitamins and nutrients if you need to in some downtimes, so where you don't have as much abundant crop growing is a good plan. So have that stuff on deck. At the flea market shop, I also have accessories, things like books on how to colony raise your rabbits, books how to seed save, survival seed kits, knives, knife sharpeners, rabbit dispatchers and the hangers, headlamps, and I'll have whiteboards so I can list everything and put the prices and some other text, and that will be really sweet. Cages, even teach how to regeneratively feed, so you don't have to buy food for the rabbits. Watering systems and feed systems for the cages. I'm thinking if I get a couple of these things, those accessories, set them up nice down there for sale with the rabbits, it'll be a shop, like officially. And if at some point I end up out in my front yard with a food cart, I'll do the same thing out front. I'll mark the price up a little bit on each item to make a profit, and then it's lucrative, worth it, and it draws in more business by having more product.